2012.
It was.
We still haven't paid for it. We still have not collected enough cardboard to pay for that.
And that was a used.
But it hadn't been in the world's, most high-profile location. I'm going
Yeah.
to recognize Mr. Marvin Farmer, then we're going to move on. Mr. Farmer.
Yes, sir, I just like to, the utility bills are already high in this town. And I just suggest that maybe instead of doing a monthly charge, just charge for the cost of the can versus a monthly charge. Have that
That's
person
an
buy the
option.
can.
I think all these options will be presented to council by staff, and I've heard some great ideas tonight. And Mr. Queen, I forgot you were the recycling manager, so this could be a nice little mix here. I appreciate everybody who did speak up, and I know recycling was very important at my meeting on November 29th. That was one of the more pressing themes. There are people in this community who've been dying for years to recycle. And again, I don't want to sound like Burnt Horse. Nottaway County, think global, think leverage. I'll have more on that later. My beautification committee, which was a recommendation by a constituent, and at the last council meeting, I recommended Miss Jenny Davis Bunn and asked y'all to have nominations as well.
I asked several people, and several are unwilling.
They're waiting to see if they get a pay increase, right? Any names? And just for the audience benefit, this would be a committee with no authority. It would be something that I would convene from time to time. There are a lot of people I've seen, and I am active on social media, but there are people who are very quick to point out, and most of the time they're right, about blight. Both publicly owned blight and privately owned blight. And of course, it's delicate if you've got someone, we've seen some houses and some grass that's not kept up. I've even had a hard time, we own a lot that I'm like, Dad, we gotta cut the grass on Lunenburg Avenue. But this would just be an additional eyes and ears. And I think anytime you can empower citizens who want to get involved, it's a good thing. But it may not be that many who want to get involved.
Can we not put a little square in the paper? I mean,
If y'all want to seek volunteers, we could do that.
I asked 4 people, and I was threatened by 2 and ignored by the other. So, I mean, you know, I let that endeavor.
Okay, so I'm not hearing, is it safe to say that we're not getting overrun with volunteers?
There's a lot of people that want to fuss about it, but
Right.
nobody wants to take it on,
They're making that leap from social media to participation.
right?
Council, it's your pleasure. I mean, the mayor by code cannot appoint a committee. We learned a couple years ago, committees can be nominated by the mayor, but ratified by the council. What's your pleasure?
We'd like for you to nominate a panel.
Okay, I've got some more names I'll produce next month. All right? I do have some more names, but I want to be modest and not make all the appointments, but I will have several names at the next meeting. Moving right along, we put that on the agenda, please. The mayor's little beautification committee. Ongoing projects, we have demolition at 214 Maben. I've been getting a woman called and asked me if she needed to wear a hazmat suit in her yard. I said, no, we've got this.
Not anymore. All the asbestos has been removed from the property, and I am awaiting I've spoken with the gentleman, and he sent me an email saying that all the asbestos is removed from the property, and I'm awaiting a certificate saying such so that I can give it to the truck driver when he carries it to the landfill. Depending on the weather, I think we may get a little messiness, so the guys may not get to it this week, but probably in the next 7 days, I dare say you'll see crews demolishing 214 Maben Avenue.
Absolutely, very good. We have a familiar name at number 2, delinquent meals tax is Huddle House, but that's the old owners. The Huddle House has been reopened. The new owners are very nice. I think they're very community oriented. I think you're going to see a well-run facility.
For clarity moving forward, can we just delete this Huddle House?
There's no need to look at it.
It could be confusing, and it's a new
Put it back
owner.
on there if they ever pay.
Well, that's fine, but my point is they're doing a roaring business down there.
I agree.
And I don't want anything derogatory or to be associated with what looks like it's
Excellent
going to be a great enterprise.
Excellent point. Street improvements, you have nothing to report. We have Wrigglesworth. We have an interesting grant possibility for Wrigglesworth. I was intrigued by this.
This is Plan B. I think the town of Crew and Yvonne have communicated with one another. I think Phil Miskovic is heading up an effort in the town of Crew, and that there may be a cooperative effort. It's for sidewalks, it's for pedestrian activities, it's for health related activities. The only project we have that's even far enough along down the pipeline is the sidewalks at Wrigglesworth. We have applied for Plan B through VDOT. We have not heard, but it is our intention to move forward and get authorization from town council to apply for a 2-year grant for $60,000 total. Is that correct? $30,000 a year, and that Yvonne would be preparing the application. And that would be a Plan B if we were turned down by VDOT for the second phase. For that project, or to do at least a portion of the project, at least get to the primary school. Pardon? I'd have to ask Yvonne. I don't know right offhand.
So why do we need to just vote for it? And
Because I think any grant application needs to have endorsement from the council.
Yeah, it is contingent upon, because it's due next week, so we have to get all the partnerships that are needed and meet all the requirements.
Can you do that in a week? Can you do that in a week?
So in the I mean, are we gonna meet before then? Or do you want approval now?
I move we approve the request of partnering, in applying for the Healthy Communities Action Team project funding.
If we get turned down, or we get approved, we'll let you know if we get turned down. If we get approved, you guys will authorize acceptance of the grant.
Mr. Nash has seconded Mr. Green's motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your next item, I believe, is standard procedure when we apply for grants.
We're asking for these items to be approved and the mayor to be authorized to execute each of these. And I think you can do it all under one motion, but if the motion could mention all of these items.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Who made the motion?
Mr. Scott?
Who
I
seconded?
second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 6, this is interesting. This is a weatherization project. We've got a home in Blackstone apparently with dirt floors in some places. And how was that, how did we discover this? This is bothersome.
Going through one of our requests for one of our applicants, and because we were on the street, and we were already, doing some work on as well.
Right.
The president and I stopped by his house to see what the applicant was referring to, because of the health condition of the applicant, was really major, with them being on oxygen and not having any heating other than kerosene heat. So we thought that was an emergency type case to go and check.
Hard to believe that they're
It's bad. This is what we're trying to avoid in Blackstone. We've got to not have folks live like this,
Is it owner occupied or renter occupied?
owner occupied.
Owner occupied, okay.
Our request is to the county, we're proposing to use $30,000 of our weatherization funds that we have set aside, which is more than we want to use on an individual house.
Because we had 100 and we spent 70, right?
Well, we spent almost 90,000 of that. Yeah, on those 3 homes.
Wow, they went over budget.
Those homes are all over budget,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like 77.
Each of those houses, when we got started, we intended to spend $10,000 on. That's our program design. But once we got into each of the homes, there were special or individual needs at each of the homes that we had to address. And yeah, it was appreciably more expensive. But remember, that was program income.
Right.
That's where people pay the.
Right.
And then the money from these homes will also go back into the program income as a revolving fund. But the town of Blackstone over the past 2 years has budgeted $25,000 a year from its electric revenues for weatherization. That's where we're proposing to use $30,000 of that for this particular home. It's such a serious case, but we don't have 60,000. We've got 50. And that would be in just one house. So we're asking the county to provide $30,000 to match us from their program income. They have program income where people have been paying into the fund over the years, and Earl estimates a new house about $60,000, and that's where the figure comes from.
This was something that was done, if y'all correct me if I'm wrong, this is before you came back for the second part. I want to say this was done on Northwest Avenue when there was a plumbing emergency. I believe at the home with the late Miss Maddie Neal. Is that correct? It was and that was similar funds used. It was not town dollars per se.
Her house was done with indoor plumbing and rehabilitation money.
Okay. Folks, I tell you, you never know.
How does the county have program income?
I think they've had some grant
They had
over the years.
a big grant in Burkeville. They had a Route 631 grant years ago up there on Good Hope Road,
And CC Road, they've had
CCC
one.
Road. Yeah.
Housing grant.
I don't know how much they have. Earl does work with them as well, and he believes that they would have enough in their program income. And we're not asking to dip in their tax rates or their tax funds or reserves, but out of the program income that the county holds.
All right, is there a motion? What's council's pleasure? This is something, this is an emergency. This is something this council does not do, but the last time it was done was 2008, 10 years ago. And I don't, well, Mr. Green and I will recall, I don't know if council's involvement, council didn't really get involved in that. It was sort of brought to council's attention.
You saw the trucks pull up?
Mr. Hill championed that project.
I make the motion.
That we ask the county and that we commit $30,000 of
Anyone like a
weatherization
second?
funds.
Mr. Green has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? I will ask for a roll call vote just because it's over $10,000, starting with Mr. McCure. Motion carries 7-0. Yvonne, thanks for bringing that to our attention. That's the kind of thing that, I know I live in my own little bubble sometimes, and we hear that people are suffering, but that's a whole new level of,
It must have never had a floor, I guess, in just an old house.
Some form was there. I think so, it was just all there.
There are two items, if you would, under the East End project number 5, under the, that we just finished. There were some RFPs that were issued and responses received for grant management and housing rehabilitation. And the committee received proposals. We advertised, we received the proposals. We received 2 proposals back. One was from Earl and Earlene, and the other was from Hurt and Profit. And I think the committee would make a recommendation for engaging Southside Outreach and Howerton Inspection Services for the 2 activities that are associated with East End.
all right, members of council, what's your pleasure? Mr. Scott has moved, Mr. Tucker has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving along, under new business, we took care of number 1. Number 2, we're going to have a discussion. This is an appeal of a DBI ruling signed by Mr. Tim Bauer, and this is for Blackstone Tactical. What is how does this sign not conform to the ordinance?
The sign conforms to the town's ordinance.
Okay.
The question is, it does not meet standards of DBI.
Written standards
Size-wise.
is personal or preference?
I don't know, Zach can explain to you, he had the conversation with Mr. Bauer. It did pass the town's size zoning standards,
Okay.
which are pretty generous, but I think DBI has an overlay of restrictions on signs, and it didn't meet those standards. And he's appealing DBI's decision to the town council, which is the proper appeal authority. And I don't know the answer about written standards but Zach is here to
I don't
explain
want to
if
put
you
you on
have
the
questions.
spot, but I just was intrigued reading this yesterday. In other words, the applicant or the appellant, Mr. Bauer, his sign does comply with the town's historic district ordinance.
No.
It does not.
It complies with the town's zoning
But
ordinance.
not the 2007 historic district.
Well, I think the changes that you guys made, I think when Elizabeth was here, so within the past couple of years, there were some additional restrictions that were adopted, and those are where Mr. Bauer's having trouble complying.
In a nutshell, Mr. Whitlow, what is the
It
deviation?
does not meet the approved signage guidelines that were approved, I believe, back in September 2016 for a flat wall sign specifically cannot exceed 18 inches in height, is 60. So that's the basis of the
The sign has not yet been installed, or has it?
It has not.
Okay, okay.
So wait a minute now. You the wheel and I'm the hubcap, I just fell off. Now, is this DBI's rules or is it something that
No,
it's an
council
ordinance that we
You guys
approved?
adopted them, yeah.
Okay.
And council at the time adopted, let DBI be that first group, that first agency to approve or disapprove.
Are there any other signs in the historic district that are similar to this?
Great question, Mr. Nash. I would hate to see us reject an appellant and then be given pictures of signs that have been either grandfathered or may have not gone through this process.
Well, I think Mr. Bauer has pointed out a dozen to me, but I do think many of those were approved prior to 2016. There may have been some that were installed after 2016, but I'm sure there are signs in the historic district that don't pass muster with the current standard.
Is Mr. Bauer, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Bauer, is he here tonight? Okay, I just want to give him a chance to speak if he was here. Members of council, what's your pleasure? This is,
When we met with him last week, he is wanting to preserve the brick, so he wants he's gonna mount a piece on the brick, so he doesn't have to put the lettering on the brick, and then it's gonna be on this mount, so.
What our ordinance calls a projecting sign.
okay, was he aware that this meeting was being held tonight and his sign was going to be discussed?
Yes.
Just want to make sure of that.
If you're gonna do this, you need to repeal the law we passed.
Well, you do have the authority, it's one of those things that Mr. Moncur has always been good about this. If we're going to have an ordinance, we need to enforce it and not just start going by, well, who screams the loudest. Of course, he's not here tonight, or who someone is. Mr. Whitlow.
We are about that in other matters. We are open to working with business owners, but we are looking to maybe bump up some height limits and whatnot. So we will be re-examining, but for the time being, we enforce what.
Well, this is a hot potato.
I'd like to table this.
Well, this is a hot potato, and we went through all the ordeal of passing this ordinance and shoved this down their throat to enforce it. And now here we are, that's a clear violation of it, and we're talking about deviating, like you said, because, because we don't wanna hurt anybody. But look,
But it's not a violation because the sign's not been installed.
Well,
He's
I
requesting to
like-
deviate.
I like what I heard, so I would move we table the request until DBI can meet with the business owner and get back and report to us then.
Is there a second to Mr. Green's motion? Second. I find the motion very wise because I'd hate to deny something tonight, then all of a sudden, 2 months later, DBI comes out with new signage and he's already bought a new sign or whatever. So I commend everybody here. All in favor of tabling, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Could we put that on the agenda for next month and just to make sure we don't let it slide by? I know Mr. Willow won't.
That, Mr. Mayor, is something worthy of us having a special meeting. If you can reconcile and he needs to move forward. I think it's a wonderful business, it's clean, it's
Yeah.
nice, and we need to support it.
Absolutely.
And we need to support all the additional new businesses we got.
Absolutely.
Not
Absolutely.
hold them up.
Amen, brother. Next up, Virginia Municipal League Insurance Renewal. I learned something. I didn't know that. I didn't realize. I'm sorry, it was a hand. I'm sorry, Mr. Whitlow.
I just want to go on record again and say that, I'll follow up with Philip and Jennifer about how we proceed with him tomorrow. For the record, we love what he's doing.
Yeah.
We're just going by what's right in front of us.
I commend you for that. You're a paper and a word guy, and I commend you for that. On the next item, folks, y'all may not know, I didn't know this. We spend $200,000 a year on insurance. I don't know why. I didn't realize-
17,000 less than we will this coming year, 17,000 less than this current year.
Yeah.
So it's actually going down, but yeah, our quarterly payment is about $25,000.
Just kind of something.
Or excuse me, $50,000 to $55,000, I apologize.
We've got newer
Pool.
vehicles.
I think Jennifer can explain some of that to you.
It's the pool.
Of why there's a
With the
reduction.
pool, it ebbs and flows with the pool, doesn't it?
But we saved on workers' comp, and then they base it off the payroll.
Okay.
We apply for certain, as long as we get a score of 100, we get certain savings, and we really looked over the property this year. Went through our property list really good, so there were some, I wouldn't say double coverage, but there were some things that we didn't need. And we had like additional tower coverage, and covered on those properties.
Hey, that's a 9% reduction in insurance expense, and that's not many. It's not health insurance, but it's insurance.
Well, I can tell you something right now. If we had to grapple with the liability that this town has, none of us would get any sleep.
No.
It's an exorbitant amount of money, but the coverage, the wide sphere of coverage here,
The excess 10 million, the excess
you know,
coverage is nice.
And we've used it.
yeah.
We've used this privilege.
Absolutely.
And I don't recall having an issue with them. Whenever we called them, and they pay the claims, and they're reasonable.
I think the process is now pretty smooth. Jennifer's got a real good feel and good relationship with the folks at VDOT. We call them in. One thing that we try not to do now is be the arbiter of legal stub toes on sidewalks and
Get a lot of
scuffed
that.
knees. We get a lot of those.
Yep.
And instead of denying them internally, we just turn them over to VML, and they're more the arbiter of deciding those cases than the town of potholes and all those kind of things. So
Excellent.
Is
Need a
this
motion?
budgeted? Is this already budgeted? Do you need a motion from us to?
I think since it's $200,000 would be appropriate if you'd like to make a motion. Typically, we have not made a motion on this insurance.
Don't know
But
to
we
do it
do-
now.
If you're comfortable, we're
It's
comfortable.
in the budget.
in the budget broken out by department.
Very good information. Thank you very much. Sewer backup repair. We've got that happened in town apparently.
Pickett Court.
All right.
A house that's owned by Sharon Properties LLC, number 32 Pickett Court. We'd received a complaint from the neighbors about a sewer backup, and indeed, there was a fairly noxious sewer backup in the alley on Pickett Court, the main alley going through there. We communicated with the property owner and said, man, you guys have got to get this fixed. We're here to help you as we can, but you really got to get a plumber over here and start working on this thing. It was
Okay.
bubbling up on the ground. So it needed to get addressed. They had a plumber go over there, and indeed Andre confirmed this and has pictures that in 2013, when the town laid a new force main going to Forest Drive Pump Station, we cut their sewer line. going through there, and you can see the repair, but the repair had settled. V shape, where we put the clamp in, had settled, and was causing a sewage backup. Andre was the one who reported to me. Indeed, these folks had not asked for a reimbursement. We approached them and said, we believe it's partially our fault. I think both parties agree. Andre has confirmed that, yep, indeed, the repair didn't break, the repair settled and caused a problem. And they're only asking for half of this $1,500 figure back, and it would be $750, $760.
Is, speaking of EML, is this something we can apply?
We can. I think we have a liability or a deductible of 500. So at best, I think we could be paying a relatively
Why
small
don't you
portion.
Apply for the whole 1,500.
We certainly can try.
And if they pay it, then get the homeowner to pay the $500.
And let me ask you this, just because this homeowner is being very nice, might it be that the responsibility is all ours?
I think one could make that argument. They're only
That's
asking
what
for
I've
half.
heard.
I'd like for us to try to do the
I mean-
right thing about this person.
So I'm prepared to make a motion that you turn this into VML and, either case, we pay, the town of Blackstone pays this out of the water and sewer fund.
The full amount.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Second, Mr. Nash, a second, Mr. Green's motion. Any further discussion? I just think these are times when we have to do the right thing. I commend you, and I commend Andre, and I commend the property owner. But unless I hear some compelling evidence that it wasn't all our fault, then
I think it was our fault.
all right. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0, or Mr. Monk, okay. I'm gonna count you as 7, Mr. Monk.
That's good.
Committee referrals, Mr. Novak wants to talk about LED conversions.
I think there's a letter at your desk from McDonald's.
Yes,
And
yes.
I think it may be something that you refer to a committee to discuss, because I think it's a general policy, as we have a policy for solar panels, that sort of thing. But I do think that Dominion Power is offering some cost share for LED conversion. I spoke with Fred Davis, and he indicated to me that Southside Electric was not doing something like that, but that was just Fred and I had a casual conversation at a baseball game. He, at McDonald's, has done a significant amount of replacement of lighting, and he's going to do a significant amount of work on his building. We have received a set of drawings for a significant renovation to his property. He's inquiring as to whether the town offers a reimbursement program for LED conversion.
I will refer this to it's either Street and Light or Accountant Finance. I'm gonna go Street and Light. Or would it be Health and, do you have a preference?
I think electricity.
Street and Light, okay. I refer this to Street and Light Committee. Just so the audience knows, this is a letter from a very community-friendly businessman, Mike Freeman. McDonald's is about to undergo a massive renovation. There will be a 10-day period where I cannot get my sausage and egg biscuit in the morning. But
And
it's
Mayor,
go-
I did talk to the signage company, and they are going to move that board that's the signage.
Yes.
They're gonna move that for us and move it up so. that-
even when you make a right-hand turn out of McDonald's, you still can't fully see if anything's coming. A left turn would be really difficult, so that's great.
We have a second referral that's not in your packet. that
Okay.
I'm going to ask Jennifer to answer any questions if you have any. As one of the things that we would like to do as we become fully staffed and a little more able to do some of these things, and I think capable of doing these things, one of the things we're really focusing on is past due collections. I think we heard that from folks that are paying the high light bills. Well, what about the old stuff? There's a lot of old stuff. And Allison Payne, who started working for us in the past few months, Allison Payne has started delving into it, and I believe since 1992, there's about $425,000 of outstanding light bills, utility bills, okay? People who have taken off or moved out and not paid, or this is the residue of the bill above and beyond the deposit. It's just a lot. Allison has been working on a program with Jennifer called IRM? ERMS. I assume the acronym is IRM.
What's the acronym? Okay, that's all right. ERMS.
It's a Virginia State Debt Set-Off Agency for Treasurer Offices. So any debt owed to the treasurer's office, we make a list of all the debt owed and we input it in ERMS, and we can garnish people's tax return.
Wherever they may be.
Or lottery, any income they may be getting from the state, if they owe a municipality or any other governing body, we can garnish that. And so we've been.
Cost for the software for us?
No.
Or use the program?
Nope, it's free. The training is free. Allison and I are members of it. She's actively doing it. I've taken the training, so we're kind of just, I'm overseeing, making sure everything's going good. But we need, so people have 30 days to contest it. So we input the debt. The Virginia State Taxation tells us there's a match. You know, they're getting ready to get a tax return. We owe you $50. The individual, the taxpayer, can contest it and say, I don't owe that, but they have to do it in writing, and then a hearing needs to be held. We were under the impression the hearing was held through the Virginia taxation. It is not. It is held through us. But, so we have to come up with a way to hold a hearing. I talked to South Hill, because she's actually the one that told me about the debt set-off agency, and she said, you want to use an unbiased individual. They use their chamber president or somebody from their planning council, you know, just to have an unbiased financial person, maybe, because I don't know, that a committee, they may have more interest in the town than the individual. We want to have an unbiased opinion, and all it is the individual that says this isn't accurate, and then the town, we both provide the documentation, and the person can decide whether it's.
It's a lot of authority for that person who may just be an occasional, you know, happy-go-lucky individual that's just trying, you know. That's a lot of, that's a hot seat right there.
Better than having somebody.
She said planning council, we just.
But she has,
Right.
we have inputted hundreds of people that owe money.
4 cases.
And out of the hundreds, we only have 4 that are contesting it. And I think one of those was a bankruptcy, so it's gonna go ahead and get wiped out. So we've only got 3, and it would only be maybe once a year or maybe twice a year, just to hold real quick. We just need you guys to appoint or refer it to a committee so we can discuss it
Asking
more.
for committee referrals.
I'd refer this to health and ordinance. What's that? Maybe the beautification, oh, they'd be beautiful, all right. Let me ask you this now, can you garnish their wages, like if they get a job, this is only tracking state income?
This is state income tax return.
I got you.
Any monies that
State
are,
writes a
Or
check.
state
Lottery.
lottery,
State writes a check.
state writes a check, okay. But you can't find them if they're getting you can't go after them if they just got a job in California, they're a software technician. Can't do that, okay.
we may be able to through the court system, but not through this
That's,
program.
yeah, but that's a lot of money. It'd be interesting at your next meeting, I mean, if other localities that sell electricity have that kind of delinquency, going back 25 years.
We can go back and check, but this is since 1992. I don't think the town has made a genuine effort at these. Vicky started when she was working for us, and she was collecting, you know, here and there, or you know, $1,000 here, $1,000 here. We're talking, we're going to hopefully through this ERMS in the first year wipe out 5% of that total figure. Okay,
20 grand.
over 20 grand, yeah.
Excellent.
And that's Allison Payne and Jennifer doing that work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent work. I'll refer that to the health and ordinance. And,
Can you also, in committee referrals?
Yes.
There's been some confusion amongst some individuals, and we're not gonna mention names or anything, but, with food truck, you know, we adopted this ordinance where you can do it in residential areas. I would just like for a certain individual to be able to come to a committee meeting, express their concern, and then the other complaining individuals to express their concern, instead of the town manager being up in the middle, or being.
The neighbors are locking horns over a particular
Yes.
business here in town.
well, the health and ordinance should resolve that. Should be able to come
that's
up with a
why-
clean recommendation.
It's really a zoning matter and
Yes,
be as close.
health and ordinance, absolutely. Folks, under Mayor's Minute, I have nothing, but I do want to say we have a very important closed session tonight. You have your departmental reports in your packet. And I want to welcome, I believe this might be, Taylor Ingram, is this your first council meeting? Hope you've enjoyed it. You've been very good, very quiet. We appreciate, good to have you. I think we all behaved so far. I see yes, and this is also the time when citizens can address council for the second and final time. Mr. Michael Bagley.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Some meetings ago in the past, we talked about, installing I'm gonna say the radio phone receptacles, and you identified 3 locations.
You mean at the police station?
No, not at the police station, right over here at Bradshaw.
Were you talking about, a vendor putting up antenna like a internet or something?
Oh, yes. One was going to be at Heritage Hall on 6th and Academy.
And when will be the installation date of that, please?
Great question.
Council will have to reconsider the application, or the agreement that was forwarded to us had 35 sites. And I think they had taken the 2 sites and broadened it up for microwave towers and, so I would not bring it back to you and I wouldn't sign it.
Once you start adding 30.
We said yes to 2 sites.
Yes.
specific sites for cell phone advancement, and that turned into 35 sites potentially with microwaves and all that sort of thing. So
Were the
we
two,
don't
one
know.
was at Heritage, near Heritage Hall, and one was at, like, near Dr. Bradshaw's office?
Dr.
Correct.
Bradshaw's. You're gonna have a lot of visual clutter, because you're gonna have boxes, I mean, meters on each pole.
There'll be meters on the poles, yeah, there's a separate
Better cell
electric
phone
meter.
service, right?
Improved cell phone service, but I will add to you, I do think Verizon is in the area working with different tower companies or tower owners in the area to try to do some things, and we probably should credit that to Preston Scott. When he was the post commander, he was concerned about cell reception out on post when all these troops are training and such things, and I think he pursued Verizon, and they have reciprocated with an inquiry to improve cell phone service.
Well, that's good news, but that is definitely a change from when we left. I believe she was here back in December, or maybe January?
February.
February, okay. Mr. Bailey, thank you. Thank you very much for staying on us on that. Any other citizen would like to address council? Yes, I'll see Deborah Colburn, then Yvonne Wilson.
I'm just wondering, does the town have a plan on sidewalk improvements?
We have several areas in progress. I believe we had spoken previously of High Street.
Yes.
Well, we looked at High Street this past year, and I think council had an option. I brought to them an option because of finances. Do we want to do the sidewalk in front of, I guess, that block where Happy Cafe is? If you notice, that was just recently replaced. The alternative was to do the west side of High Street. And I think council at that time, because we had to pick one or the other cost-wise, they selected to do the Main Street because of more traffic is the perception. High Street definitely needs to be replaced. There's no doubt about it. It's probably, yeah, it's terrible. I get you. You can't surprise me with it because we've been out looking at it. I think it's a project we either need to identify as a separate capital project. It's going to be expensive to do, and/or we need to dedicate a portion of our secondary road money from VDOT for that.
I'm just concerned with the cracks and the holes.
Ain't no doubt.
If somebody falls,
And water meters and all the other unpleasantries that are there.
who's responsible?
Well, I think that would be up to our insurance company, but we get trips and falls and stumbles all the time, and I'm not aware of the insurance company coming back to us and asking us to participate. If any payouts have been made, have been through our insurance company, and I'm not aware of any.
And also, I want to say that on my goal for the beautification committee would include things like sidewalks. I think you used the phrase yucky sidewalks. All that would be encompassed in that. And I appreciate your eyes and ears, Deborah. I really do. Any other questions from
I
Deborah?
think you've got a new beautification committee.
I'm going to be in contact with her shortly. I'm making notes. I see some faces in the audience that be very good at this. Marvin Farmer, then Yvonne Wilson.
Yeah, just sticking with sidewalks. Is there any plans of doing on South Main Street? There's people walking in the roads, there's people walking in people's yards.
It's been a huge plan. We had an ambitious $720,000 grant application to go from 6th to almost Route 46 out that way. That got turned down, I believe.
We've made application for something that's called Smart Scale, and that's the successor to what used to be called a 6-year plan project, and that goes from 10th to Fair Street.
That's right. Yeah.
10th to Fair, because we just want to get to the Walmart intersection. We can go farther to Food Line. After speaking with VDOT and the amount of traffic and the number of accidents, I don't have great confidence we're going to get a 100% grant to do that. I think the town is going to be, to a degree, on its own doing that, and/or in a revenue share situation at 50-50 best. I just don't think we're going to compete with the Parham roads and the Quioccasin roads and all those other things in Richmond that may have higher traffic. I have Jason Walker and I went out there and walked it one day. I think the solution would be, barring any great calamity or any great epiphany from VDOT giving us a big check, I think that putting sidewalk and curb and gutter certainly on the west side would be the easiest. We have overhead power. We have a significant grade change on the east side. I think that would be, but even then, that's still pretty expensive. So it may be one of those things we just have to start thinking. But we were down there one night, and there was a guy in a wheelchair going down. Say, if y'all haven't seen that, I mean,
got a flag, and he goes all over town. But like you say, on the east side, I feel like one day you're going to see somebody walking, they're going to slide down the 20-foot embankment, because it's like this. I watched somebody, as a matter of fact, today, and you're like, how would you begin to, you'd have to bring in dirt. I don't know how you do it, but that's the side of the road people favor.
it is the side that people favor. I think more people walk from the east side than they do from the west side. Eric's business is there. I think it would have to be more retaining walls and head walls that would
It's a mess.
What was
It's-
the price? Wasn't it 7 million?
It was in the millions.
7.2 million, I'm sorry. Yes, it was 7.2 million.
Do
I'm
that. And that was a
sorry.
VDOT estimate, so I think there may just be have to be a poor man's solution to it, and that may just have to be on the west side to do the best we can, because we're not fighting topo, and we're not fighting overhead utilities on that side.
But the beauty thing about, there is one positive thing on the west side, even though it's not exactly great sidewalk across the street from Dollar General, there is existing sidewalk there. So maybe if you made that nice and carried it on out, people would. But the thing about it is, you walk down the sidewalk in front of Miss Dewey's house and keep on going, guess what? If you're going to Walmart or Food Line, you gotta cross that street.
You have to put in some kind of a signal or a
Yeah, you got,
pedestrian crosswalk.
that's not gonna be fun. Very,
There's a stoplight there, so that could be an easy solution to get the, it's further down, but you can put it there instead of adding.
I think that a crosswalk of some sort where people could push the button to get into.
a lot of good ideas tonight, Mr. Farmer. Good to have you in the house. Good to have you here. Anyone else tonight before we go in closed session for perspective? Yes, Yvonne, I'm sorry. Yes, indeed.
I just wanted to share with the council, according to one of the flyers that were in your packet, that tonight we did have our new home ownership discussion that took place. South Outreach Group, they shared the information, and we had 5 participants who showed up tonight who are potentially looking forward to becoming new homeowners in Blackstone.
That's great. Thank you, Vaughn. Thanks for that update and everything. I have a closed session item. It's on the agenda. It's for prospective business or industry where the prospect's name has not been discussed publicly. And I would ask for a motion to go into closed session for that reason, only that reason.
I think
No, we have personnel.
Personnel.
That we were going to do last month.
Oh, yes, okay. And also personnel. What department is that?
Administration
Administration and water. Gotcha.
Hey,
Gotcha.
all right, here we go.
Mr. Green has the floor.
I move that council go into executive session for discussion.
Mr. Green has the floor. Go ahead, Mr. Green.
Sam,
Mr. McCure, let's make a motion first. I'm sorry.
Give me a moment.
really?
All right.
I move that council go into executive session for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. And item 5, prospective industry, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business where no previous announcement has been made of the business or the industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in our community.
Is there a second to Mr. Green's motion? Mr. Nash is seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Don't hand me that thing
The
anymore.
ayes have it. We'll close session. We'll take about a 1 to 2 minute recess.
Mr. Lyon.